So, I was thinking about the sign language interpreting business because Elizabeth is credentialized under RID Medical as well, which is a national form of credentializing sign language interpreters. And so she is nationally seen as an interpreter. And then it got me thinking about her husband. So her husband, Robert, is not nationally certified or like in the higher level of experience equal to knowledge, sign language interpreting, not even through the state level. And that's with 29 years of interpreting for deaf people. So, what got me thinking about the problem that I'm seeing is that Robert is taking on a remote job. It is a video relay service. And when I learned about and was taught about this video relay service job for interpreters, when I took interpreting classes under Elizabeth and other interpreters at Idaho State University, well, so I got told that some video interpreting businesses, including for sign language, had become much more strict on their visibility because they had to start finding buildings that are in a secret location with no name to the business, and the business itself has to reach you through the okayance of the business employer. So the business employer to give the okayance to, let's say, Elizabeth, because she's the Idaho Sign Language Interpreting Program Director. And so for teaching purposes, she provides the location to some of her students. That included me. I was in that list that last second year, right before going to my internship in Texas. So she provides the location to that video service, that video relay service for deaf individuals. And so now we have the address, and we have to find the building on our own, and it's still a secret location. And so the reason I'm explaining this is that these places in the year of 2018 were being targeted by individuals that are American citizens and attacking the place of business. So this can be any place of sign language interpreting or English or any other spoken language to provide a form of interpreting services or translation services or captioning services. And so my point here is that Robert is interpreting without being credentialized. Correctly, and has been working for years, under these forms of jobs. And so we as students are told that these locations go under attack. And we need to be careful, including making sure that we provide legal credential level of proof that we are capable of interpreting for those types of jobs. And a part of that is because if it becomes a legal matter, there needs to be proof from the business or the individual, depending on how put together in contract form this business is, and prove that you as the interpreter are qualified to work for a business that is technically under the job title working for government, because it is providing language back and forth from one language to another, including the captioning, the online typing. it's providing that to a client that is a human being. And so Robert is working at a VRS company, and he's making a lot of money. Maybe not as much as Elizabeth because of her level of taking the sign language exam, the American Sign Language interpreting qualification credential title under RID. And, or maybe it's just under sign language terms of qualifying to show that you know how to interpret for deaf people or hard of hearing people. Anyways, so he's working for the business Purple right now, and it's year 2026. And it just worries me to know that providing the incorrect information could cause someone out there to find out about one of the workers' locations, home or business office, and then that person get hurt. Or a group of individuals working for the business to get hurt. And still, it worries me because employees like Robert, who are not qualified to interpret, are making a lot of money. And in this field for interpreting different languages, the community that our clientele find out super easily about interpreting employees, because the interpreters talk about individuals of language community civilian members. And it's not actually illegal under the sign language interpreter employee or employers or someone who practices interpreting for deaf and hard of hearing. They are technically in a state not required to not talk about the client and how much they charged, or how much they made, or what type of conversation was made, the topics, all of that. It's not actually illegal. And me, just in the 2 years of being a student underneath Elizabeth's program director seat, there was so much gossip from her and the community of interpreters she accepted into the program to help us receive higher education, or job examples, or colleague examples. And so within those 2 years, you'd hear gossip, things that were told and weren't or could have been a part of legal cases. And also, you know, talking about or gossiping about past students, and talking about past students that graduated, and the new gossip of them once they went out into the deaf community or the interpreting hiring community and tried to achieve a job working status. So, so then you have people like Robert, who is from a different state and met Elizabeth here and there in different states, because Robert is from New York and Elizabeth has lived in Spokane, and other states, and knows some people from Texas. And so they met, and they're newer to Idaho. Both of them are interpreters, and so now you have Robert knowing about and talking about students that have been under Elizabeth's instructions or her program, and or getting to know the ones that found a sort of kind of credential and are sort of kind of credentialized here in Idaho, and their names, because by now they are colleagues, or just another member of the sign language interpreting community under the sign language career field. So if someone gets hurt because there are clients out there that may receive a message that may be inaccurate, if there's like some form of not good deal, because interpreters have to sign or interpret everything. They have to receive a call and interpret everything. And if they miss something really important, that could cause the person on the other line or the group of people on the other line or the other business side of the interpreting building or administration office or wherever it is, or any one of those people's family members or friend members or someone near them in community distance to get hurt. So it just is concerning that Elizabeth is fine with her husband Robert taking that job and to have their offices together in the same building where they also sleep. And then, so I'm here at their other location on Oregon Street and Gooding Lane, and from time to time you'll have Tobias, her deaf and hard of hearing son, or her husband Robert here on the other side of this camper and just listening in on anything that I'm saying. So like some form of surveillance to catch up on any gossip news that they can take home and start talking about with Elizabeth, Robert, and any of the young adults that she has allowed in her building to stay at and sleep at, because they are her kids' friends, including friends of her stepdaughter through Robert, Katie. So it's just very concerning. So this is Elizabeth. She has a European last name that I probably can't say very well, but it's like Schneewinder. It's like Scheiend. Oh no, no. Schnee. So Schiewinder. And yeah, so to me, it's just concerning and creepy with Robert and his stepson, Toby Tobias, or some other young adult man living with them to come and go on this property and hear me talking, hear and catch some things that I've said, and then make a really snide remark that is mean towards me, and then go and tell Elizabeth, and then gossip about it at Elizabeth's other property on Main Street. And then even Elizabeth changes attitude towards me and starts becoming snidey too and angry, and goes into her favoring behavior towards the others, and she's the one to teach all her students to watch out for interpreters in the field, and to analyze and understand their years of work decisions and what the deaf client circle or group or community has said about the interpreter, and most of the Idaho community, deaf community, besides probably Tobias and her other older son, don't like Elizabeth or Robert interpreting. And it's not because they're new here, and the community, the deaf community, is also worried that she's taking all these national tests that are very highly English based for her, because she is a wordy person, but deaf people and deaf culture align differently in language, and some of the tests that Elizabeth takes is based on English sentence structure under English grammar. And then some moments in description that are like 3 seconds long of actual visual description. And the rest is alphabet based. It's like 50% alphabet and then 50% some English sign related sign with that point something 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 decimal form of number to add to the visual part describing how something might look. And then she puts all that in a sentence format. And then she's a qualified sign language interpreter, and she boasts about the government jobs for interpretation that she's had in the past. And a lot of her interpretation is visual translation. So practically what is a sentence that can be put into video, or something that, or like a sentence that is on paper, she interprets that word for word. So visually you see that sentence. And deaf people don't communicate that way. Deaf people communicate in American Sign Language. It is a government approved language, which means that the government in federal terms has the knowledge and other forms of documentation from deaf individuals or other interpreters under sign language, American Sign Language, that produce the accurate form of visually seeing a deaf native community culture language. And she's running a sign language interpreting program, and I get hung up on the interpreting part because that makes the program a general program. And she's teaching English. She's not teaching deaf sign. She's not teaching deaf culture sign. She's not teaching textbook American Sign Language. And yesterday, March 19th, one of my deaf professors, Alan Wilding, who comes from a deaf family, who uses deaf sign, deaf culture sign, and forms of sign English translation, forms of communication, all those three forms, including written form, because he went to Gallaudet University, which is a school of university that deaf individuals can attend because there are interpreting services there for the deaf and hard of hearing. And he placed a restraining order against Elizabeth Schneewinder, against Elizabeth. And the first thing that happens is Elizabeth finds me at the library, tells her son, Toby Tobias, to go in and find me. And he's a senior in high school. And he tells me, my mom wants to talk to you. And then, so I say, okay, we both walk out. And the first thing that happens is Elizabeth shows me the restraining order that Alan placed recently on her. And the police showed up to her building on Main Street to provide her that documentation. The restraining order official notice, legal notice. And so important deaf members. So Alan's father also went to Gallaudet, and he's actually, so Jerry Wilding is an Olympian. He is a deaf Olympian that ran in Europe during his time. So he was in Belgium, he was in Milan. He ran Europe. And he graduated from university. So his family, the Wilding family, is known around the US. And they are also known for attending the only all of this gets me emotional. The only credentialized, the only national credible credentialized in its history of being the first higher education university status for deaf and hard of hearing. And so Elizabeth gets upset at the Wilding family for her own reasons. That includes both of Jerry's daughters, and tries to take away all of their efforts. And I'm a student, or a colleague technically, with Elizabeth right now. So I have been her student. I graduated, and technically I am in colleague terms, sort of. And she is someone to start gossip. So I'm in the office of Elizabeth, and just to chat and gossip, Elizabeth starts talking about how I need to believe that I need to not socialize with Alan Wilding because he is gay and he is a pervert and he is a pedophile. And Robert tells me the same thing, and he didn't even know the family until he got married and moved here to be with Elizabeth and to get to know the community. And then Robert steps outside of deaf culture, deaf community, and makes friendship, becomes friends with a guy named Ross here in Gooding from Fairfield these past 2 years, because he is diabetic and now he's in a wheelchair, and starts gossiping and chatting with him about how there is a deaf member here in Gooding who is a pervert, a gay pervert who is a pedophile. And Ross is hearing and doesn't know who this Alan Wilding is, and Robert is using this outside member away from the deaf community to start steaming or venting or gossiping or all that stuff. And then telling Ross, you place that strict voice of yours and tell Gio not to socialize with Alan Wilding. And I don't believe what Elizabeth and Robert and her whole family think about the Wildings. I have a good relationship with them. I go and provide community service at his local Gooding shop, the Hodgepodge that he has here. I have always seen the best from the Wilding family. They have spent their whole lives being active deaf culture members and advocates for the deaf and hard of hearing. So it was just weird and upsetting that Elizabeth went to go find me to tell me that I shouldn't be socializing with Alan because she says that I cannot socialize with Alan. And I told her, you are not legally allowed to tell me what decisions I make. And you are using your ISU related status and your national RID qualification status and your Texas interpreting qualification credential under BEI to condition me to take your side or force me to be convinced that there's a legal tie to following your directions about how I need to behave in Gooding's deaf community. So this $40 phone that she got me, that is not the most modern phone, but Elizabeth thought that $40 was enough to have a normal phone, and it's not really a normal phone. it's really old, really old. And most of the apps don't work on it, and the messaging and calling is also kind of sketchy. And so she's like she's like do you want me to take back your phone? And then I am backing away from that and kind of just being over it and just saying calmly, no, because honestly, it's gonna be more work for you and a hassle. And you're an important woman with work right now, and I don't want to take you away from that too long. So, no thank you. The phone isn't the most updated working phone, even at the cheapest modern one, which is probably 70 to 90 bucks. But it's okay. It's fine. And I would prefer the phone to stay with me and not be given back to Elizabeth. Well, anyways, so yeah, so so I calmly told her, no, I don't want to put more time set aside away from your work. And then I headed back to the library. So yeah, and then she gave me until the end of the day the next day. So today, Friday, she has given me until the end of today at midnight to move my things from the Gooding Street and the Gooding Lane and Oregon Street property. And I got some kind help. And so I'm headed there. But she was like, well, I finally helped search a place for you, and you can talk and message and find a way all the way to Boise. And she knows all these personal things, and one of the first things that go to my mind is, what is Elizabeth going to start spreading to other interpreters, other friends, other deaf members, all these things? And then I'm like, okay, well, thank you for helping me out and finding time to help me, because I contacted you for help to find resources, and one of the only moments she chose to provide time for me was to suggest, oh, you should go to this Shoshone town area place at a farm or near Shoshone, and these people are hiring for a caretaker of an older dementia patient, a member of their family. And I am kind of looking at her like I don't think I'm qualified for that. And why are you suggesting that I believe that I'm credentialized or educated in taking care of a patient diagnosed with dementia? And then she's like, it'll help with money. They're saying they could possibly pay $700 a week. And once again, I looked at her with concern, and then she's like, you can wait around here until we can help you out with resources and you figure out what the next plan is for you. because she knows about the DACA process that I received to attend university, and she knows about a failed marriage that resulted in marriage abuse, and that I'm going through a sensitive case right now under VAWA, Woman Against Violence Act. And um so I reached out to her to try and help me find the best resource for me. And the official, right, because Elizabeth is nationally credentialized, qualified to hold a program directory seat, told me, okay, well, that's one option for you, or I guess, we can provide you with a sort of kind of working camper. And I mean, she's like, well, you don't have any money, right? And I'm like, no, yeah, I don't have money because during this time, I can't work or do anything that is illegal, so that the government knows that I'm doing everything in my power to be on the side of the law. Right? So my husband left me in the middle of paperwork, so that means he ran from the law and he's under FBI watch. So he could provide harmful connections or harmful decisions that could find me. So I'm doing my best to stay with good people and anything that helps prove that I am on the side of the law. And I needed the help of Elizabeth to help me with a letter of support, because she knows that I am a DACA holder throughout my university years. If you look up my name in the alumni status, if paperwork was done correctly, my name would be seen under a participator of, so I was chosen in my program as a diverse competitive member coming from an ethnic group, because I am not white. And ISU took it upon themselves to help other communities that are not white Caucasian, and to have that be part of their progressive, diverse higher education take that year. So, so I got help, um, or I got chosen to represent my ethnic background. So the best thing for me, I had decided to find my way to the the program director. So someone from a high position in my legal journey to help and provide that form of letter so that I could have proof of my achievement in degree, diploma, and in being known in the work field and having a form of status, not just through the deaf community, but the Spanish speaking community here in Idaho, not just during my time interning in Texas, Houston, and the neighboring cities. During that time in 2018, the springtime. So, yeah. So I have taken upon myself to be as close to the education as possible. And so it just concerns me to know that Robert didn't have the same education and is taking a close neighboring government related job at this remote video relay service as a deaf interpreter and a English linguist. To make a lot of money because VRS makes more money than an educational interpreter. Speaker of a different language or a signer of someone who may be deaf, may be hearing impaired or mute and needs visual forms of language being provided to them. And all of this was sort of kind of concerning during my time as a student because I was more focused with my education and not the political gossip. And so now, about 5, 6 years later, yes, it definitely is much more concerning because I show up and these are the steps that Elizabeth has taken in her life, her personal and work life. and and her educational diploma goals, because now she has a PhD, and during her master's is when she took the ISU interpreting program position, and was also taking interpreting jobs, including the video relay services located in Meridian,